And we are back with the Chosen Journey with Big Money Grip, Steve Karsay, and his co-pilot, Chosen Lawyer. Steve, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm glad to be with you. Looking forward to another great episode.
Well, I warned you last week where we were going, and it was the NL East. And you tend to like to text me a lot and mention about how I kind of missed on the 2022 World Series, and the St. Louis Cardinals did not win it.
That is correct.
So I'm going to be telling you now in today's chapter, I want to take a look at the NL East and specifically the Braves, the Phillies, the Mets. Who do you think is going to win this division? And is the World Series winner coming out of this? And I'm going to give you a sneak preview because I'm going to tell you right now the smart money is on the Philadelphia Phillies, and they have what it takes now to get over that hump, and they are going to be the 2023 World Series champions.
There's a lot of factors that go into it. I think we all can make predictions on what we think on paper when we see the moves that have been made over the offseason and then going into spring training. Obviously they're going to be playing each other a lot in the NL East, right? So they're going to beat up on each other. At the end of the day, there are injuries that happen during the season that really put teams in the depth position, and hopefully that these teams do that. But the NL East is going to be very, very strong. I mean, it's going to be a gauntlet for these teams to go through. But you just can't overlook some of these other teams, like the Padres, who have put together a well balanced team and upgraded their team. The Dodgers haven't done much, but they're always a quality team. And as you know, in a 5-game series, 3-game series, or a 7-game series, you know, sometimes the better team doesn't always win if a break here or a break there goes the way of the opposite team. So, to your point, I would say the NL East has a very good shot of having one of those three come out of the NL as the winner, an opportunity to get to the World Series in 2023.
And it's so funny because I look at three of these teams and I've read different reports, and you always come back to Trevor Bauer. And I'm thinking in my head, all it takes is one injury, one phone call, and you get an ace like pitcher potentially in your rotation at the minimal cost. But it could have the effect of maybe getting you some wins. It could also have the effect of imploding your team. And I mean, just look at the San Diego Padres and enduring with Fernando Tatis and all the hoopla around that. Now he's back on the team and having to reintegrate himself with his teammates during spring training. That'll be interesting. So, looking at the moves that have been done up till now, starting off with the Braves, they didn't do very much. The fact they lost more than they gained in that Dansby Swanson's gone now, so he was not expected to resign there. I like the Sean Murphy move there as far as acquiring him. I like William Contreras though, but I think they shored themselves up as far. He's one of those guys that when you really look at the numbers from the defensive point of view as a catcher, I mean, he hits all the check marks. Maybe not the strongest bat, obviously, but I think they've really helped their pitching staff that way. And Joe Jimenez from the Tigers as a setup man. So they didn't do anything, radical, but they're bringing back most of the team. How you liking them as far as where they're at?
Well, they didn't have to do anything radical. They locked up all of their major key role players and the core of their team. That's what Alex did, and they got Albies. They got Acuna, they got Riley, obviously Olson. Now they got Murphy, Harris. They locked up during his rookie year, so they have their core players together. Now they just got to fit the pieces in. Obviously, Max Fried is still there and Strider. So they're a well-built, well-oiled machine that's going to continue to be very good for years to come in the NL East.
You know what I'm really worried about, Steve, actually, is the WBC this particular year. And it's simply going to be because so many players are going to be over in playing for the respective countries and not integrated in spring training with their team. Plus, with all the new rules, which we'll get to in a future chapter. But like for a team like Atlanta, for example, having a lot of diverse players, if a lot of those key players are off in the WBC and only come back at the end of spring training, do you think that's going to hold them back versus a team that doesn't have a lot of players playing there, or will that be minimal as
I
far as
think it'll
affecting
be
team?
minimal. It's not new players playing with each other that are coming in for the first time that are going to the WBC. You know, Harris has been there, came up in their system. I mean, obviously Acuna, Albies, Riley, Olson's been transitioned there for a year now. Murphy might be the only one if uh, if there was a bunch of pitchers that were going to the WBC that he wasn't able to talk to in spring training or work with. But I just don't see position players going through the WBC coming back as a collective group when that's over, hindering them much going into the season, especially the Braves, where their guys have been playing together for at least a year and more.
Team that makes me a little nervous, even though I like the idea of the moves and they've been aggressive and they had to replace a lot of lost players, is the New York Mets. You know, looking at re-signing Nemo and Edwin Diaz, 8 years, 5 years, respectively. I think in the short term, for the next couple of years, while the window's open, I think these are great moves. I think near the end of those deals, they may regret as far as those numbers, but they knew that this was definitely a players market, especially for high end players, and those players cashed in. And the Mets smartly said, you know what, we need to keep our core together. So that was great. I like Verlander over DeGrom. I don't know why. I just trust Verlander more from an injury perspective, even though he had his hurts and his age. I just feel better with Verlander there versus DeGrom. But 2 years, 86 million. Look at these numbers, Steve. Like, wow. And the rest of the moves there, I mean, the biggest move that did not happen was the Carlos Correa move. Like, if Carlos Correa was there, I felt a lot better about this team. I liked that bat in the lineup. I liked everything about him in the field. Not having Correa there, now looking at Kodai Senga. Again, this is like rolling the dice for me, having not seen him for one game in Major League Baseball, seeing how that's going to translate. Jose Quintana, David Robertson, like these are real roll of the dices here. Like, could really pay off, could be middling, could be disastrous. It's going to be one of the three. You don't know with these guys. How do you feel the Mets feel about their chances, and can they roll with the Braves and the Phillies this year?
Well, it's always risk reward, right? When you get into these signings of dollars and years. So, obviously the Mets are going to feel good about what they've done, and they've done their homework on the players. They've done their homework on international players, or they wouldn't have signed these guys to the type of contracts that they did. So, I think they obviously needed to spend money. Money is no issue to Steve Cohen. He's a fan. He's an owner, and it's really beneficial for the players when owners can come in and spend money like this and create a market for the players the way they've done. But I think they feel good going into this. They know they have to spend money in that division to compete, obviously, with the Braves and what they have, and then how the Phillies have gone about their business, what the Phillies did last year, making the World Series and coming up short, and then now adding a few pieces to that lineup in the pitching department, which I think has really shored up Philadelphia's overall team aspect of them competing for a full year and not always relying on their offense.
Well, the Phillies is the last piece to this. Again, my predicted 2023 World Series team having come so close and say, you know what, let's take this lineup and let's add Trea Turner to it. Wow. Like Trea Turner to me from the big shortstop free agents, that's the guy I wanted most of my lineup. I think he's the best all-around guy. I think that they really did well. I know there was a lot of demand for him. Putting him in that lineup, imagine in the World Series, you just add Trea Turner to them. I think that could have taken them over the top. Now, Harper's gone till about mid-year. Is that what you're hearing as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Tommy John surgery is a serious surgery. They're going to make sure that he's healthy and ready to come back. We'll see how long that takes for him to get back, but they're gonna play it safe. They're gonna play it cautious. I think they're in a very comfortable position. They'll have to see how they go through April and May, and if they can give him to June, they very well will do that to get a healthy Bryce Harper back.
When he's healthy and they're in a lineup, imagine a lineup: Schwarber, Turner, Real Muto, Harper, Castellanos, Bohm, Hoskins, Marsh, Stott. You know what? Looks pretty good from the hitting and the field end of it. Makes you a little nervous amount of time Castellanos is going to be spending in the outfield. But you know what? He looked out. He was okay out there in the World Series. He didn't embarrass himself whatsoever. It's the pitching that makes me very nervous. And then Teal Walker moving over from the Mets to the Phillies, and with him in his career, you just don't know what you're getting. Even when he's healthy, you don't always know. But they obviously liked enough what they saw with the Mets. As far as the number four, number five, I'm very okay with them. Strom, I'm surprised that the contract he got from Boston, considering how many lefty relievers are out there still. Matt Moore, for example. I think they could have done a lot more bargain shopping than having to pay 50 million for him. The one guy is Craig Kimbrell. I don't get this. I don't get this at all. It's like Dombrowski was going and watching old videos back in the day of the Joe Carter home run and said, with Mitch Williams, and I like to play with fire. This is the kind of guy I want out there on my team. So Craig Kimbrell, please, like if the game's on the line in the World Series, like he's just not my guy. What do you think that they saw in him? You think that they saw enough as far as a rebound to the Kimbrel of old, or was this a big mistake in your estimation?
Again, it's risk reward for 1 year, right? Like, do we take a chance on this guy for X amount of dollars? I think it was 10 million that he got. Um,
Correct.
and see what we get out of him. Who says he's going to close for them? I don't know if that's going to be the answer. Maybe they talked to him and his agent said, "Hey, you're coming over here. You might pitch in the middle of the game, and if you've earned yourself some time at the back end, we'll put you there. But when you come over here, we're outgetters, as Craig Counsell would say. And when I put you in the game, your job is to get as many outs as I need you to get, and we'll pass the baton to the next guy." So I think Craig Kimbrell is at the point where I'm not saying he doesn't want saves, but I think he wants to win. He wants to be part of a winner, and he wants to have a chance to, hoist a trophy. And I think that's when you've made your money in baseball. I think what you want to do is, if you're going to put the work in and you're going to put the time and effort and everything in, you want to try to be as competitive as possible and have a chance to win a World Series. And that's what drives guys once they've secured enough money and have taken care of their families.
Well, they're not going to be afraid to make moves. I mean, if they're competing well and they need that extra part, whether it's a starter, a reliever, they won't be afraid of the deadline. If somebody gets injured, they'll find a replacement. There's a lot out there as long as you're prepared to pay the salary and pay the luxury tax. That's going to happen. So, looking at these three teams, could you see now sitting here on paper, if you had to say which one is going to go the farthest in the playoffs, who would be your money on?
I always go with what my gut says, and the core players of the Atlanta Braves are a team that I would stick with. When you have guys who've played together already and you're not mixing and matching and just bringing in new guys all the time, there's something to say about clubhouse chemistry and the camaraderie within guys who want to play for each other and have a winning background.
Last question on the Braves then. Are they still going to be the Braves by the end of the year, considering that, Cleveland are now the Guardians? How did they get to keep the Braves name, do you think?
Because they did not give in to the woke agenda. And that's my opinion. My opinion only is, what they stood behind what they've created. I'm sure they've done their homework and went out and have talked to the Indian tribes in that area and asked them their opinion. And I believe that they've given their blessing for them to keep the name, so they're not giving in on changing their name and becoming something different than what they believe that they are.
I'm so used to now the Cleveland Guardians. It's funny, and I was so used to before with the Indians, and I was always thinking, is there not a way to find a middle ground? And it's been part of the heritage of the city for so long, and everything else. And Cleveland made their change. I'm still surprised we're not going to be seeing World Series with tomahawk chops. I'll tell you that much. But it's nice to see some traditions still stay. I agree with you. So may they continue to be the Braves, hopefully indefinitely, but we will see in today's day and age. So we'll see what happens. We got Atlanta on one end, Philadelphia on the other. I think my bet hinges a lot on the health of Harper, which he should be back with everything saying, maybe DHing only. And Craig Kimbrell, I agree with you. As a middle reliever, I like him a lot more situational outs. I don't like him coming in for one or two innings and trying to get the saves, but let's see what happens. You know, worse falls have risen in baseball, so time will
Well,
tell.
I can't agree with you when you pick a certain team. I can't go with that certain team, right? I
Yes.
always have to go with somebody different. whether it's within the division or whether it's a pick for a World Series.
Well, that being said, I know if you did feel strongly, you would say it, but I also already knew I kind of had the inkling it was going to be the Braves. Even though you're your hometown guy with the Mets, just now looking back on it, if Correa was there, would your pick have been any different?
Again, I probably wouldn't. I mean, when you add Correa into what the fold would be with the Mets, yeah, it's another bat. It would have been a different positional change for him at third base instead of playing shortstop. So, like, how much difference are the numbers going to be between Austin Riley and Carlos Correa?
Well, we'll leave it at that, and we'll see what the crystal ball happens. We already have a lot of predictions going into next year. We're very excited because this is going to be a big year. We got WBC coming up. Has not been around for a little while because of the pandemic, and really, really excited about all the buzz going around there. We're looking to get a guest in that used to star in the WBC, so stay tuned for that, folks. That should be pretty fun. And the other thing with the WBC now, as we end today's chapter, thinking going into next week's chapter is how's the WBC going to help teams preparing? Because we got some changes coming this year in Major League Baseball. They are poking into the recipe and deciding to do little tweaks. We'll talk about those tweaks next week. Steve Karsay, thank you for your genius in baseball, and always a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, thanks again. Looking forward to the next one and the next one.
On we go. See you next week.
Absolutely.